Welcome to Resilient in Business, a podcast where we dive into insights, strategies, and systems to help you build scalable, thriving businesses. My name is Jad Atwe. I'm an engineer, an entrepreneur, and a business coach. Our intention from this show is to provide value and inspire entrepreneurs to keep pushing forward no matter the challenges. If you enjoy the content, subscribe and help us spread the message. Now, let's get into today's episode. Today's episode is about marketing. There tends to be a lot of advice in the market about different strategies, and everyone says that their strategy is the best and is the one that works. However, unfortunately, that doesn't seem to be the case, and business owners tend to be overwhelmed, not knowing what to do and not actually seeing results for their efforts. I'm so excited for today's episode. Today, I'm joined with Rachel Allen. Rachel is an expert marketer. She's been running her business for 16 years. She's has a lot of experience, worked with different types of businesses. So thank you for joining us, Rachel.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
What got you excited about marketing, and how did your career evolve?
Honestly, I fell completely backwards into it. I went to school for journalism and really thought I was going to do that. And then I graduated in 2008 and nobody was hiring, and especially not journalists. And so in my 22-year-old brain, I was like, it makes sense. I should move to Hong Kong because I bet they have jobs there. And they did, but I didn't get a work visa because I was 22 and didn't know anything. So I landed in Hong Kong with like $200 in my bank account and I had to make rent. And so I'm Googling like how to make money online because, it's 2008. And this copywriting job popped up and I had no idea what copywriting was. I was like, oh, this is 100% a scam, but I'm just going to like try it. And so I did it and I ended up really enjoying it and it wasn't a scam. And then I realized there's a whole entire business out there in this. So I founded my business there, and then I've been doing it ever since.
What type of businesses do you find gravitates toward you?
I've worked with people in industries really ranging from accounting to astrology, which kind of sounds like a joke, but is actually true. But in the past couple years, I've fallen sort of in backwards into working with a lot of people in finance, law, and HR. So more sort of high context industries. But the main differentiating factor between somebody who's a great client for me and somebody who's not is that they're doing something that's truly disruptive. It doesn't have to be loud, but it is changing their industry. It's changing their world, and it matters. My tagline is I do marketing for good people doing hard work that matters. And that's who I love working with.
So I recently came across a blog that you wrote,
Mm-hmm.
why 99% of marketing advice sets you up to fail. And it
Yeah.
resonated because it's true. Like, you're in business, there's just so many strategies, and it's difficult sometimes to understand what really works for us. I would love to dive into this topic with you and tell us more. What's your experience been? Where do people go wrong, and how should we approach it?
Yeah, I wrote that earlier this year because, as I'm sure you're seeing, things are a little bit chaotic in the world and in the world of business. Everything's very much up and down. We're in kind of one of these times when people are like, "It's all over. Business is going to be done. The apocalypse is here." And I'm like, it's just like the fifth time I've gone through this, so I know that things aren't going to just fall apart. But I do see a lot of people panicking, and so I wanted to provide some insight as to why what they're doing might not be working for them. And that's where this concept for the article came about. Because when it really comes down to it, for a sale to happen, you have to have four factors in play, which is you have to put the right thing in front of the right person at the right time and in the right way. And if you have even one of those factors off, the sale doesn't happen.
Yes.
But most marketing advice requires you to control all four of those factors. They make up this world in which you can control things that you literally can't, because you can control the right thing. You can make the very best thing you can. It can be wonderful. You can do some research and make sure you're designing it for the right people, but you have no idea what time they're going to encounter your marketing. You can't control that. And you don't know which way it's going to hit them. So the example I always give is like, I never buy anything based on a video because I really don't watch them. I read stuff. So if you can have the most incredible thing, the product that would change my world, but if you're showing it to me in a reel, I'm like, I don't want that. And so I try to help people understand, like, it's unfair to expect yourself to be able to control these factors that you just don't have any hope of controlling.
Yes. So what do you typically see? Where do businesses go wrong when they're approaching their marketing efforts?
I think that they fall into this idea that if they follow somebody else's prescription, it's going to work out really well. And it might, because but that thing, that prescription, that system, whatever it is, it worked for them at that time. And you are not them, and it is not that time, it's now. And so I see them do that. And the other thing is I'll see them kind of just throw up their hands and be like, well, it's too complex. It's a waste of money. I can't get an ROI on it, so I'm just not going to do it anyway.
To answer this problem, what's the best way to approach marketing? How do we know where should we focus and uh, yeah, go all in?
Yeah. So what I teach my clients is to come up, even if you're, a solopreneur, even if you're just starting, or if you're a larger company, you've got a large team, it's all about strategy, right? You need a strategy that is the right size for you and that works for you. And so it doesn't have to be this crazy complicated thing. The way I do it is I ask the same three questions, whether I'm working with like a multinational marketing firm or I'm doing something for a solopreneur. And it's just, what do I want to happen? And that can be really simple. Like, I want more leads. I want to grow my email list. I want people to buy this thing, whatever that is. What do I want to happen? What am I going to do to make that happen? And so you think about where these people spend the most time, the way in which they're most likely to want to encounter your thing, and the way that you are most comfortable presenting yourself with your marketing. And then you figure that out. So that could be like, I'm going to do a podcast. I'm going to post on LinkedIn. I'm going to whatever. And then the third question is, how am I going to know if it's working? And this is the part where everyone's like, because it's like metrics. But it's really wonderful. Metrics are lovely. And you just look at it, it's like, okay, well, how would I know? Well, I'm getting more email signups. I'm getting higher quality leads. I'm connecting with people I want to connect with. You reverse engineer from your goal to get your metrics. And that's a solid basic marketing strategy. As long as you keep up with making your decisions from that and not falling into this sort of like hopscotching that we see people do where they're like, oh, new thing, new thing, new thing. If you can stick with this thing for at least a quarter, then you're going to have an incredible data set about what's working or not working. And then you can make decisions from there.
Yeah. So from what you're saying, what I'm understanding here is it's important to know who you're serving and really have a good understanding about them. So you're there, you're available.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, this is so the really old saying from Kendrick Shope, right? I think this was like early aughts, early internet times, was all things being equal, friends buy from friends. All things being unequal, friends still buy from friends. And that's true.
So you're saying building a strong connection is essential. There's a term that gets thrown around, which is authentic marketing. What does that mean, and what's it about?
Honest, so I get on my soapbox about the term authentic marketing. I've been shouting about it on the internet for about 10 years. So, I'll tell you what I think people present it as and then what I think it actually is. So, what I think people present it as is kind of an aesthetic, right? Of like, well, we're not going to show up super polished because we think people will like us better that way. And oh, let me create this carefully like authentic image, but like it's not really authentic because that's weird and nobody wants to see that. So I think people often use it that way. And of course we bump from like it was authenticity and then I think transparency was the buzzword and then it was integrity. So like whatever you want to call it, all important concepts, but not what's at play there. What I think real authentic marketing is having a strong, well articulated, values based brand personality. So that means you sat down, you've thought through what does this company actually stand for? What are we really doing here? What can I like which hill can I comfortably die on? And then you market with a lot of flexibility and authenticity from that. So one of my core values is human first, and that makes it very easy for me to make decisions about what I talk about in my marketing. I work for other companies where one of their primary values is, oh gosh, how do they phrase it? Something, don't pull punches, right? And so that's when I do their marketing. It's like, okay, yeah, I'm going to say the thing. We're going to be a little bolder, a little louder here. And when you start from that foundation, that's what really helps you be flexible enough. So you still have a consistent brand personality, but you can be responsive. So you don't have the zombie content that I also see people create where it's like, well, I've done this. I don't even remember what it was, but I scheduled it like 6 months ago and it's still happening. So maybe that'll work.
So in order to be authentic, you're telling us to first of all understand our values, then from there our messaging.
Yeah, I think values have to inform messaging. If you try and do it the other way around, it's a really easy way to make a embarrassing misstep, or especially if you have a team that's doing your messaging, if you don't have your values and your brand personality and your tone clearly articulated, everybody's going to sound a little bit different. And even if it's only minor changes, it's going to bring up a cognitive dissonance in your audience. And so they're going to feel like, I don't know why I don't like them, but they just kind of eke me out.
Yes. When you phrased it at the beginning, you said Uh, I think it's a four-step process. First, you have to know what you're selling. Then you have to know who you're selling it for. It sounds very simple, yet when you dig into each of them, there's a lot that goes on into each of those buckets.
Yeah, absolutely. I like it's such a easy thing to say, but to get each one of those things right is labor intensive. It takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of, I think, frankly, experience. You know, some businesses can come out right out the gate and just get it, but usually it takes people a long time to really work through this and figure out, you know, who this business is, what it's about, who it's for, what do they actually care about.
Yes, I know from my work. Like I go for a walk in the park, and then I come with a marketing message, and then the next day
Yeah,
it's another message, and the next day it's another message, and then I have a full list of marketing messages.
yeah,
So now, how do we actually narrow it down and understand what really works, what resonates, it's a science. It's really it's an art and
yeah,
a science at the same
yeah.
time.
This is one of my favorite questions, and I love the way you describe it as an art and a science because it is, right? It's ultimately marketing is a conversation. And so you can't, like you and I are talking right now, we can't scientifically optimize this conversation. And it would be kind of weird if we tried. Like, I don't know. I would just like to, speak to you like a person. But when you're doing marketing at scale, there's also laws of numbers involved. There's different data points that you can look at. So, as far as choosing what to say, what I recommend is you think so first values, right? You know what you're talking about, you know what you're here to do. Then you think back to your marketing strategy for this quarter or for whatever period that you're working on. And then you choose whichever message resonates most closely with that goal, whatever you think is going to get you the closest to that goal, and then you try it out. And if it works, excellent. You've got data. If it doesn't work, also excellent. You have more data. And then you can make a decision about, like, oh, well, that one didn't fly, but this one probably will.
Yes. There's a third term that I noticed you use as well, other than authentic. You say something across the lines of sustainable marketing.
Yeah.
Let's speak a little bit on that.
Yeah, sure. So when I was looking actually at this podcast, I really love how it's about being resilient in business because I think so many or so much marketing advice and so much business advice is based on churn and just like, oh, let's just get people in fast and this myth of infinite growth. And like, we'll just find the customers somewhere and something will happen. Well, that's exhausting. It's also extremely brittle. And so when I do my marketing, I want to make sure it helps the business be as resilient as possible. And that's where the sustainability factor comes in. Because if you are constantly having to try and create, constantly churn out more content, it's exhausting. It's not enjoyable. It doesn't especially resonate. And you reach the point of diminishing returns with it because you're not really thinking about it. And there's so much noise anyway. I was just going to say that that's why I focus on sustainable marketing, which is marketing that is actually designed in such a cadence and process that works for you and that feels good for you and your business and for your customer.
Yeah, absolutely. So the message that I get here: don't be everywhere. Don't go on all of the social platforms. Narrow down to what works, and it's okay to do some marketing math, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Like something that I've said to my clients a lot is you don't have to be loud, you just have to be heard. And most of the marketing advice is like be really loud, be the loudest person in the room, make sure everybody knows you. And I'm like, okay, if you do that, all that does is put you in an arms race with Coca-Cola, and I am never going to win a marketing race against Coca-Cola. It's just not going to happen. I'm never going to have those resources. I'm not a multinational marketing firm, like, or marketing company myself. Like, I don't have that. But if you focus instead on connecting with people as opposed to just broadcasting to an audience, that's where any business who is not operating at that multi-billion-dollar level really has some leverage.
Hey, a quick commercial break. This podcast is brought to you by Business Optimization Partners, a firm that specializes in helping entrepreneurs systemize their business and transform it into a professionally managed asset that is scalable and easy to operate. If you wish to learn more, download the guide to running a professionally managed business that's available in the description. Now, back to the episode. Yeah, and at this point is very important because you're right. I mean, small business owners have a leverage that big businesses don't have. Maybe they are more agile, they can move faster. It's absolutely important to understand where we're at and design something that works for us.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Because, like, do you really want to get on the content wheel and be like, great, I have to post on LinkedIn again? Like, it's not fun. And also, people can sense the energy behind it.
No return.
Yeah.
What else did we not touch on in terms of strategies that you see that fail or don't work?
So we briefly touched on this, but I'll just expand a bit. We talked a lot about people, or we talked a bit about people jumping from thing to thing to thing. I see small business owners doing that a lot, and I understand why, because, things move fast and you try something, and if it doesn't work immediately, you're like, well, am I wasting my time? Blah, blah, blah. But I really recommend that people do give at least 3 months to any strategy before they make a change, barring any catastrophe, right? If something happens, if you're getting canceled, do something else. But if you just have a solid strategy that you're working on, give it 3 months before you make a change. And the sentence that I sort of like keep in my brain about this is from an Olympian. A friend of mine went to a presentation, and the takeaway was, if you're 90% sure about something after 90 days, then make the change.
Which marketing effort has had the most impact in your business? I'm just curious.
Ooh, that's such a good question. Oh gosh, I've done a bunch of things over the years. I think the ones so okay, I'll say it this way. My business has been 87% referrals for the past forever, right? And that's worked out great for me. It's a six-figure business. It's reliable, it's comfortable, it's exactly what I want and need, and I don't want to scale it larger than that. So referrals, which are people don't think of in terms of marketing, but I have a series of emails that I actually send out regularly to people that I know, to my referral partners, and they're not like annoying. They don't feel like the weird ones where it's like, hey, by the way, do you know anybody I can work with? That everyone's like, I don't know. Now everything's weird. Like, do you need money? What's happening? So I have a process that I use for that and for checking in with my former clients. The most externally facing, the things that have benefited me the most externally facing, I have a book that I've written about marketing called Use Your Words, which has been great. I do essays, periodically. So it's longer written word things. And then a couple of years ago, I did several community projects, which were kind of like summits where I basically brought 30 different people together to talk about a topic. And we dropped one video per day. And that was just really fun. And it also got a lot of attention from people that I would have never connected with otherwise.
What I take from this discussion is having a strategy is important beyond the small tactics like do this, do that, do this.
Yeah.
It's important to just step back, have a big picture idea of what's going on.
Yeah, and to document that in some way that makes sense for your brain. Because, for me, it's like I do it in Notion and in a Google Sheet. But it's really easy to have a brilliant idea and to start executing on it. And then, like, you're busy and you don't write it down. And it's like, oh, but what were we doing? Oh, I don't know. So to find something like some kind of way that you can look at that and keep yourself out of the minutiae, I think is key, because otherwise it's so easy to be like, well, posting on Instagram feels bad today, so I guess I'm not going to do it ever again,
Yeah. What does working with you look like? How do you support businesses?
So I do full service marketing work all the way from high level branding development stuff down to like post on Instagram for me because I don't want to type of things. The way that most people engage with me to begin with is either via consulting or a fractional CMO service. So a lot of times people will bring me in to support them, say with launching a business or with creating like the content map that their clients will go through. But I also do things as simple as like web copy, funnel design, email sequences. Basically, if it's words, I do it. But the thing that I really love is when someone brings me a problem and they're like, "Hey, this is like happening with my marketing. I don't even really know how to fix it, but I think maybe I should talk to you." And I love digging into those.
If someone wants to reach out, connect, work with you, how can they do that?
Well, I'm very easy to find on the internet. My website is boltfromthebluecopywriting.com. You can also email me like it's the ancient times at hello@boltfromthebluecopywriting.com. And I'm on LinkedIn. My name is Rachel Catherine Allen. I think if you search that, I should pop up.
Thank you, Rachel. This was very insightful, especially since it's overwhelming. You go on Facebook, you see everyone's giving advice. On YouTube, this is the same thing, and everyone's solution. It sounds like it's the best ever, but yeah, once you apply them, it doesn't really work with
Yeah.
for us.
Yeah, for sure.
It was nice chatting with you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was great.
Thanks for tuning into the Resilient in Business podcast. This show is all about providing valuable insights and inspiring entrepreneurs to keep pushing forward no matter the challenges. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe and help us spread the message. See you on the next one.